It is Rivalry Week right here on Mark Rogers TV, trying to get to as many of the big games this weekend as we possibly can, and can't forget about this one. We got Georgia Tech in Atlanta with the Yellow Jackets coming in at 5-5, and if Georgia has a ton to play for, of course, and trying to keep its college football playoff hopes alive at 10-1. We bring in Savannah Lee Richardson from Bulldog Illustrated. She has helped us out quite a bit with Georgia football this year, and it's been a number of fun discussions, Savannah, except for that one game against Auburn. But besides that, 10 good ones, and you've got this date against Georgia Tech. How you doing tonight?
Doing good, just getting ready for Thanksgiving and kind of getting ready for Hate Week. Well, it's Hate Week, so we're always excited for Hate Week, and it's just been fun watching the team and, talking to them all week about what this rivalry means to them. So it's been a good week.
What does this rivalry mean? Because if you're at Georgia, you get too many rivals. How can you sort out all these rivals? You got Auburn, you got Florida, to a lesser extent, you got Tennessee. You get pretty much everyone in the East Division, but you definitely have, Tennessee to a certain extent, but Auburn and Florida, Georgia Tech. So what's special about this one?
Oh, it's in-state rivalry. It's home turf. State championship, running the state, making sure that, if whoever wins this game, they get bragging rights all year long. And Tech's won the last 2 out of 3 years. And that's something that you don't hear often regarding Georgia and Georgia Tech because it's been so lopsided with Georgia. So a lot of people are like, it's not really a rivalry because Georgia's won 13 out of 16, 13 out of 17, or whatever the number is really. And I'm still like, no, it's still a rivalry because you can go to Georgia Tech person on the street and they see a Georgia G and they're just like, go Tech. And I'm like, we really don't have much to talk about. And, it even carries on even into basketball and baseball and stuff like that. So it's just home turf, who wants to win the state of Georgia. And I think that's what makes rivalry week so much fun. It's usually against, in-state teams. And that's what makes it fun because the team usually gets a trophy and gets to have bragging rights all year long.
Clean old-fashioned hate, right, Savannah?
You got it.
That's it. Georgia Tech. They're playing in Atlanta this year. And so if you could only win one of the 3 rivalry games, Auburn, Florida, Georgia Tech, which one would you pick?
That's a hard one. I'm pretty sure whatever answer I get, I'm going to get a lot of comments about, but I probably would say Florida, as lopsided as that series has been since the 80s and when Steve Spurrier took over and how they've really dominated the last 20 years or so of the series. It's just for Georgia to go in and beat them like they did, hands down, solidified the season, that was just the best win. It's just a good win to beat Florida because they're probably the most aggravating kind of team because they like to talk a lot of junk and talk a lot of smack. So it's always good to get a win over them.
Okay, Savannah, I know that the Bulldogs have been dominant in this series. They lead 65-41, but as you mentioned, more recently, especially the Mark Richt era and going back into the 90s, Georgia's been decidedly the better football program. I don't think there's any debating that. But 2 of the last 3 years, Georgia Tech won last year, 28-27. They won in 2014 in overtime. So Georgia Tech does have 2 out of 3 here. So there's some players on Georgia's team that can't look at Georgia Tech and say, hey, we're way better. Maybe that's the case, but there might be a little extra hate there because they've lost to these guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. I mean, if Georgia loses on Saturday, it'd be the first time that Georgia's had a losing record against Tech since 2001 when Mark Richt came in and started his, I guess you can call it a dynasty at Georgia, getting Georgia back on the map and stuff like that. So I think that's the focus of these players, is to keep that winning tradition at Georgia and to really solidify that Georgia is the better football program in the state. I mean, it's just hard to go in there and ask these guys, and y'all have lost 2 and 1-1, what does this win mean to you? And they're all just like, it's the next game. We're here to play. We're getting ready for them. It's just another business trip. That's what they like to call it. But watching practice, the little bit that we do get, seeing their emotions come out, like Jake Fromm just hooping and hollering when he would make a good catch. The defense guys, the coaches, like the strength and conditioning coach, Scott Sinclair and Aaron Feld, just hyping these guys up. It's hate week, guys. talking about, working on cut blocks and yelling, cut him, cut him, cut him. I mean, it was intense. And I think that's what's so much fun about rivalry because they get to add a level of intensity that's already so intense in practice anyway. So it's hard. They just want to win. And I mean, John Atkins, all these seniors that, like you said, are on the losing end right now against them, don't really know what it feels like to beat them consistently. They want to win bad. It's kind of like a revenge tour for them. They've beaten every team that they've gotten beat by last year and previous years before that, besides Auburn. And I just think that's their mentality. We're on a revenge tour. We want to prove to people that we are the better team. And last year, we were just under a new head coach and trying to, get everything started and get this new culture at Georgia started. So I think it's going to be interesting to see.
And plus, on top of that, Savannah, there's the college football playoff. So had Georgia beaten Auburn, maybe they could slip up against Georgia Tech, still go on to the SEC championship game, take care of business, and move on to the playoff. But there is no margin for error. And this has to be the first time we would have to go through the years that Georgia has arrived at this game in the season playing for a chance to compete for a national championship.
Oh, yeah.
The dog's excited. What's your dog's name? Your dog's excited about the game.
He is. His name is Champ, like from Champ Bailey.
Like Champ Bailey. I was going to say, that's not just a regular champ. Some people say champ for champion, but that's Champ Bailey, of course, number 24.
Oh yeah, he's a big 2.5-year-old black lab puppy that I got whenever I got accepted into Georgia, and just named him Champ because Champ Bailey's probably one of my favorite dogs in the past, and longer in the NFL and stuff like that. But Champ, come on now. Sorry about that.
Does Champ have some analysis on the game for us?
Well, I think he thinks they're going to win. He gets excited. What's funny is he will literally watch the TV while we're all sitting in the living room watching the game and stuff like that. So it's funny for him because he gets it, like he gets excited when we cheer at the TV, or if something goes wrong, he knows he needs to go lay down and stuff. So he's very aware, and it's hilarious to watch sometimes. He just, if any knock or anything, he likes to start barking. So